Good Tavach, a Gemara Chasima Toiber. We're on Motzai, Rosh Hashanah, and we're going to be learning today, B'ezras Hashem, Daf Lamed Daled and Daf Lamed Heit. We're going to start from Daf Lamed Gimel Amud Beis, about 10 lines from the bottom. It says in the Gemara, V'yabitu Acharei Moshe ad Boyu. Pasuk says, Klal Yisrael was looking and watching Moshe from behind as he went up until his oil. Rav Ami v'Rav Yitzchak Menach. There's a machlokes what this means. Chadam l'gnai. One means they were looking at Moshe Rabbeinu with not such good thoughts. The Chadam l'shvach. And one says fakert. This is showing the shvach of Klal Yisrael. Mandam l'gnai k'deisa, like it's mentioned in the Medrash Tanchuma, which Rashi quotes. They were saying, look at how fat Moshe Rabbeinu's thighs are and how fat his neck is. Look how much food he must have. Where does he have everything that he has? He has it from us. That was a ligna. But Mandam l'shvach, Omer Chizkiya, Omer Reb Chanina B'Rei Ravo, Omer Ravo, Omer Vimai, and in Haifa, Chacham Oiver Oimed Milafana of Dalad. If a Chacham is walking past you, when he's within a 4-amma radius, that's when you have to stand up. When can you sit down? Once the Talmid Chacham leaves your 4-amma radius, then you can sit down. That's if it's a regular Talmid Chacham. Av Bezin, what if it's the Av Bezin? Oiver, if he's passing by, Oimed Milafanav Mulain. As soon as you can see him, as far away as he might be, you must stand up for him. But you only have to remain standing. Once the Talmid Chacham leaves your 4-amma radius, then you can sit down. Nasi Oiver, what if a Nasi is walking by? There, you have to stand up for him the moment you see him coming, and you're not allowed to sit down until he is seated. And Moshe Rabbeinu was a Nasi. They stood standing, waiting until Moshe Rabbeinu reached his oil. Only then did they sit down. That's the shvach. Klal Yisrael had the proper covet for Moshe Rabbeinu, who was the Nasi. Beautiful. Now we're going to get back to our Mishnah, where our Mishnah tells us that kol mitzvahs aseh shazman grama, women are potter from them. Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in the Brisa. What are some examples of mitzvahs aseh shazman grama? Zok Gemara sukkah, velulav, shofar, v'tzitzis, utfilin. A woman is not mechuyev to sit in the sukkah. She's not mechuyev to shake lulav. She's not mechuyev to hear the shofar. She's not mechuyev to wear tzitzis. And she's not mechuyev to wear tefillin. Now let's turn over onto Daf Lamed Daled Amud. What are examples of a mitzvah saseh that apply all the time, that are not totally in Zman? Mezuzah, Micah. If someone has a home, he must make a Micah gate around the roof of his house so no one should fall down, so no one should be in danger. Aveda, there's a mitzvah whenever it might be that you find an Aveda, you must return it to its initial owner. V'shaluch hakein, whenever you find aim or vetzes halabonim, v'yisigach aim halabonim, shalech t'shalach hazaim v'sabonim tigach. Frank Gemara uklalahu, are you telling me that the Mishnah has an accurate klal that these are, or this brisa, these are the only mitzvahs aseh shazman grama? Hare matzah, what about the mitzvah of matzah, which is also Zman Grama? Simcha, the mitzvah of V'samachta b'chagecha, or Hakel, the mitzvahs of Seisha Zman Grama, v'noshim chayavos. So how could our Mishnah say our rule? Any mitzvahs of Seisha Zman Grama, a woman is potter. We've listed 3 examples of a mitzvah of Seisha Zman Grama, and in fact, women are chayav. So our Mishnah is not accurate. V'su, Barei Talmud Torah, which is a mitzvah that applies all the time. Periya Viravia, which is a mitzvah that applies all the time. and pitting the bed, which is a mitzvah that applies all the time, whenever you have a child that needs to be nifta. The lav mitzvahs asay man gramahu, they are not mitzvahs asay man grama, and if you follow the rule, you should say that they're chayiv. Nevertheless, v'noshim turas, women are potter from the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, they're potter from the mitzvah of Perev V'Revia, and they're potter from the mitzvah of pitting the bed. Why? They're mitzvahs asay she'ein azman. Whenever the Mishnah says Zeh, anything that's a mitzvah says man grama, a woman's potter, it's a klal and it's not accurate. In fact, there are exceptions as we just listed. And on the flip side, when the Mishnah says a rule, a mitzvah says man grama, women are chayiv, there's exceptions to that as well. Even if the Mishnah says chutz, a woman is chayiv to do mitzvah say shazman grama, she'ein hazman grama, even if the Mishnah would have said chutz from these couple of mitzvahs, that still wouldn't make the Mishnah accurate. Even when the Mishnah uses a lashon of chutz, which seems to portray some level of accuracy, it's still not a raya. There still could be more exceptions. Where do we see that a Mishnah, even if it uses chutz, it's not necessarily accurate? It's not b'chol ma'rovin. When you make an erev tchumen or erev chatzeres or shitul from a voice, any type of food can be used, food that is on, food that satisfies, that satiates somebody, because your makayim is where your meal is. The only food that will not work, the Mishnah says, is chutz min hamayim u'melech. So you would say, if chutz is accurate, that means you'd have to agree that there are no other exceptions to this rule. Besides mayim and melech, anything edible can be used for an erev. But that's not true. The suleka, I'll give you other examples of food items that cannot be used for erev. We could kameyin, truffles, patriots, mushrooms, and those cannot be used for an erev. Ella ein lemeidim in aklalois afilu b'makim shenemer b'ch. So you see a raya from here. No, whenever the Mishnah says zaklau, there could be many exceptions to that rule, and that's not a question. Now we're going to get into the reason where we know from the Torah that a mitzvah saseh shazman grama noshim ar potter, where we know from the Torah that a mitzvah saseh she'ein hazman grama that a woman is. Zok tehedid gemara. Mitzvah saseh shazman grama noshim peturos. Minol, how do we know this? So Gemara gomar mitfilin. We learn it from tefillin. Ma tefillin noshim peturos. Just like tefillin, which is a mitzvah saseh shazman grama, and the women are potter. Why is tefillin a mitzvah saseh shazman grama? Zok toifus. Even if you hold that you can wear tefillin balayla, it's still considered a mitzvah saseh shazman grama, because on Shabbos and on Yom Tov, one does not wear tefillin. So tefillin is a mitzvah saseh shazman grama, and women are potter. How we know women are potter, we will soon see, but we could learn a bin yinav. Just like tefillin is a mitzvah saseh shazman grama, women are potter, so to all mitzvahs saseh shazman grama, women are potter. Of kol mitzvahs saseh shazman grama noshim tuos. Utfillin, how do we know tefillin is potter? A woman is potter in tefillin. Tefillin gomer lo mitalmud Torah. We learn it from Talmud Torah because there's a hekesh between the mitzvah of tefillin and the mitzvah of learning Torah, and the hekesh is found right in our Krishna. Torah, and it says, so right there, side by side, in the parsha of Krishma, we find the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, which we know women are potter, because it says, so just like a woman is potter from Talmud Torah, because the Torah tells us, through a hekesh, a woman's also potter from tefillin. Once I know that a woman is potter from tefillin, we'll say tefillin is unique. It's a mitzvah saseh shazman grama. So to all mitzvahs saseh shazman grama noshim peturos. And this is the maskana, according to one shita. This is the maskana of how we know this halach. Frek the Gemara, why do you say that a woman is potter from tefillin? Because there's a hekesh between tefillin and Talmud Torah. There's also a hekesh between tefillin and mezuzah, because in the same parsha of Krishma it says, So why don't you make a hekesh between tefillin and mezuzah? So tomorrow I'll tell you why. Because tefillin l'talmud Torah iskish bein b'parsha rishona bein b'parsha shniya. Sayin Shema and Sayin V'hoya, you have tefillin mentioned right near Talmud Torah. But tefillin l'mezuzah, it's only right near mezuzah in the first parsha of Krishna. But the parsha shniya lo yis. In the second parsha of V'hoya, the pasuk about tefillin is not near the pasuk of mezuzah. So since we have Talmud Torah that has a double hakish to tefillin, and you have mezuzah that only has a single hakish to tefillin, we go with the hakish of Talmud Torah. From there we know a woman does not wear tefillin. About Frank the Gemara, okay, so that takes care of tefillin. But let's now look at mezuzah. Is there not a hekesh between mezuzah and Talmud Torah? The nakesh mezuzah and Talmud Torah. Why do we say that a woman is chayiv in mezuzah? Let's say a woman should be potter in mezuzah. Why? Because you have a hekesh in that pasuk of Krishma from mezuzah to Talmud Torah. It's not logical to learn a hekesh that will tell us that a woman doesn't have to use a mezuzah. You know why? The Torah says regarding the mezuzah, which means the school of mezuzah is that we should have a long life. Are you going to say Gavri boy chayi, nochi boy chayi? Do women not need a long life? Avada they do. So avada, the logic is that they are in fact included in the mitzvah of mezuzah. Okay, so now we sort of finished the first step. We know tefillin is a mitzvah saseshes man grama. We know women are potter because there's hakish Talmud Torah, and from there we learn the cholat Torah kula mitzvah saseh there's man grama, a woman is potter. But farei sukkah, sukkah is a mitzvah saseshes man grama. Dichsiv besukkah teishu shivas yomim. Kol ezrach b'Yisrael yeshiv besukkah. From Kol Ezrach b'Yisrael we learn dafka a man is mechuyev in sukkah, but not a woman. But let's think about this. If we have a binyan from tefillin that tells us b'chol Torah kula that a mitzvah saseshes man grama noshim is paturais, so then sukkah by default women shall be potter because it's a mitzvah saseshes man grama. Yet the Torah needed to tell us Kol Ezrach to teach us that women are potter. Why would the Torah have to teach us that women are potter from sukkah if we know it already from tefillin because it's a mitzvah saseh shazman grama? Time with the cause of Rachmana HaEzrach l'hoitzias hanoshim. Halabachi, if the Torah wouldn't have made a specific meal to tell us that a woman is potter from sukkah, would you have said noshim chayavais? You would have said noshim chayavais. So why? Why wouldn't you learn it out of tefillin? Because it's a mitzvah saseh shazman grama. Amar Abaye, it's the reason why you wouldn't have compared sukkah to all the other mitzvahs saseh shazman grama and learned it from tefillin that it would be potter. It's because sukkah has a special reason here. So Kedai Chamina told the siv b'sukkahs teishu. It says b'sukkahs teishu, and we learn teishu came to duru. You have to sit in the sukkah in the same manner which you live at home. And when you live at home, madira ish v'ishtoi. When you normally live at home, it's a husband and a wife living together. Av sukkah ish v'ishtoi. So too in your sukkah you live ish v'ishtoi. So even though sukkah is a mitzvah saseh shazman grama, I would have thought a woman would be mechuyev because it's teishu came to duru. That's why I need a pasuk of Kol Ezra. But avada, every other mitzvah saseh shazman grama, we would learn out of tefillin to teach us that a woman is potter. We're right at the bottom of the Devach of Betsy. We're right at the bottom of Daf Lamed Dalet Amud Aleph. We're mamish but the last two words. Rava Amar. Rava tells us. Itzrich. The Gemara's kasha here was, if we know there's a rule across Shas, across the whole Torah, that a woman is potter from mitzvah saseh shazman grama, why do we need a special pasuk by Sukkah to tell us a woman's potter? Of course it's potter. It's a mitzvah saseh shazman grama. Zok Rava, let me tell you why the Torah needed to tell you specifically by Sukkah that a woman's potter, and you wouldn't have assumed that it has the same status as every other mitzvah saseh shazman grama that a woman is potter. Turning on to Lamed Dalet Amud Beis, Itzrich. Because Salkadai de Chamina Nelef Chamisha Osar Mechat Hamatzos. I would have thought that we have a Xer Shava from Erev Pesach, from the first day of Pesach to the first day of Sukkot. It says in each place Chamisha Osar, and I would have thought I should learn from Erev Pesach just like by Pesach. It's a mitzvah that says man grama to eat matzah. Yet a woman is mechuyev to eat matzah. So I would have said mal Allah noshim chayavos. Just like by Pesach, a woman is chayiv in the mitzvah of Pesach. She's chayiv to eat matzah. Afkan noshim chayavos. So maybe through the Xer Shava we should learn that a woman should also be mechuyev in sukkah. Shricha. That's why we need a separate pasuk of kol Ezra to be b'mayit noshim. So from the fact that sukkah is a mitzvah sasei man grama, you would have said maybe it's a different type of mitzvah sasei man grama, because we have a hekesh chamisha asar the Pesach to tell us that she should be mechuyev. Dr. Torah kol Ezra, don't listen to that Xer Shava. Don't apply the Xer Shava to say that a woman should be mechuyev in sukkah. Ezra dafka, a man is mechuyev in sukkah, not a woman. Now the question is, Pesach is also a mitzvah sasei man grama matzah. So why is a woman mechuyev in achilas matzah? I the mitzvah sasei man grama. So Rashi tells us because we have a halacha, we have a limud. It says lo'isaychel chametz, you should eat matzah. So we learn from there that any person who is prohibited to eat chametz is automatically mechuyev in eating matzah. And since women are included in every lo'isaseh, so women are also prohibited from eating chametz. Therefore, they have a chiyuv matzah. By sukkah, on the other hand, there is no special limud. Fakert, it says kol Ezra to tell you don't learn from Pesach, and a woman is going to be potter from sukkah. Frank the Gemara, we have another problem because there's a mitzvah of re'iyah shalosh pam b'shana yeira kol zechorcha aspnei adam. Re'iyah is a mitzvah that says shazman grama. So if it's a mitzvah that says shazman grama, by default, a woman should not be mechuyev in the mitzvah. So why did the pasuk say yeira kol zechorcha to be b'mayit noshim? Even if it says yeira, I would automatically not including noshim because it's a mitzvah that says shazman grama. By re'iyah, the mitzvah that says shazman grama. The time of why is a woman pturin the chazar rachman is zechorcha lahotzi noshim. Halavak noshim chayavos. Why? I the mitzvah that says shazman grama. There's more interest. There's a special reason why by re'iyah I might have thought that a woman's chayiv. Because it uses the lashon yeira by hakel as well, and by hakel we know a woman is mechuyev. How do we know women are mechuyev? We'll soon see. But I'll call upon them since there's a Xer Shava re'iyah from hakel. Even though re'iyah is a mitzvah sasei shazman grama, you might have thought that we should learn from hakel that a woman should be mechuyev in re'iyah as well. Now the Gemara is going to go back. What was the makar in Kol HaTorah Kula? The mitzvah say shazman grama is potter. Tefillin. Correct the Gemara. Yes, you have an example tefillin where it's a mitzvah say shazman grama that it's potter. But guess what? I have other mitzvahs that say shazman grama that are chayiv. So why compare Kol HaTorah Kula to tefillin and say the woman should be potter? Compare Kol HaTorah Kula to simcha. There's a mitzvah of v'samachta b'chagecha, which a woman is also mechuyev on, and that's the mitzvah of shazman grama. So maybe you should learn from simcha that women are mechuyev in the mitzvah of shazman grama. Nerach b'simcha l'chiyuva. Omar Abaye, you're making a mistake. A woman is not mechuyev in simcha. It says v'samachta b'chagecha, and the woman is included in that. Avada, but the mitzvah is not for her to make the simcha. The mitzvah v'samachta b'chagecha zok Abaye. Omar Abaye, each of buying misam. The husband is mechuyev to misameich his wife by buying her things. So there is in fact no mitzvah asay shazman grama that a woman's chayvin because a woman is not mechuyev in simcha. The mitzvah is on her husband to be misameich. We know an almana is also mechuyev in the mitzvah of v'samachta b'chagecha because it says in the pasuk v'ager by Yosy v'almana. How can an almana be mechuyev in v'samachta b'chagecha? The mitzvah that says shazman grama. Dr. Gemara b'shruya etlai. Weiter, the almana is not mechuyev to be misameich herself. It means whoever she's living amongst, the people around her, they're mechuyev to be misameich her by buying things. Frek the Gemara v'nelch mehakol. Hakel is also a mitzvah sasei shezman grama, and women are mechuyev. So why don't we learn from Hakel l'chol haTorah kula that women should be mechuyev in the mitzvah sasei shezman grama? So tomorrow we should have a matzah v'hakel, matzah, which is a mitzvah sasei shezman grama that women are mechuyev in. Hakel is a mitzvah sasei shezman grama that women are mechuyev in. Nei ksuv mabam ke'echad. There's nei ksuv mabam ke'echad. Whenever the Torah could have only written the halacha by one of the two, by matzah or by hakel, yet the Torah writes it by both. Clearly, the Torah is saying, don't make a binyan of l'chol haTorah kula, because if that's what the Torah wanted you to do, the Torah would have only written it once, and we would have known everywhere else. The fact that the Torah says this by another place, by hakel and by matzah, it must be the Torah telling us, don't learn to anywhere else. Apply this halacha that women are chayiv only to these two cases that we listed. Frank the Gemara, once you're saying that there's shnei ksuv abam ke'echad ein melamdin, well then I could now blow up your whole limud from tefillin, because there's also another mitzvah that says man grama that a woman is potter. Yachid tefillin v're'iyah nami shnei ksuv abam ke'echad ein melamdin. We have the halacha by tefillin that a woman is potter, and we have the halacha Yeirah calls the fourth that a woman is potter. That's also shnei ksuv abam ke'echad. So you shouldn't be able to learn the Chol HaTorah Kula, the mitzvah sasei shezman grama not martuas. Zok Gemara tzrichi. Those two psukim are needed. The Torah could not have learned one from the other. The Torah had to write both. Once the Torah had to write both, it's no longer and therefore, even though there are two places where the Torah does tell us that women are potter, we could still learn that in the Chol HaTorah Kula. Why are they needed? Because of Rahman tefillin, if the Torah only told us about tefillin that women are potter, because of Re'iyah, and the Torah would not have told us before by Re'iyah that women are potter, have a meaning of Re'iyah mehakel. I would have thought you learned Re'iyah from hakel, just like by hakel women are chayiv, so too by Re'iyah women should be chayiv. So you need the pasuk to say calls of work. But because of Rahman Re'iyah, but if the pasuk would have written Re'iyah, because of tefillin and not tefillin, have a meaning akash tefillin mezuzah. I would have thought compared tefillin to mezuzah. We said earlier, tefillin has two locations to Torah and only one hekesh to mezuzah. Nevertheless, maybe you should still make a hekesh to mezuzah to say that a woman is going to be chayiv. Therefore, when the Torah told us that a woman is put from tefillin, we need it. When the Torah tells me that a woman is put from riyah, we need it. Neither of these two psukim are extra, and therefore you have a binyan now of the Chol HaTorah Kula that any mitzvah say shazman grama, women are patuas. Frank the Gemara, once you're telling me if one of the two are needed, that it's no longer shnei ksuv abam ke'echad, so let's go back to what we were asking from, matzah and hakel. Matzah v'hakel nami tzricha. Why don't you say the matzah and hakel are needed as well? And now why don't you make a binyan from the matzah and hakel that women are chayiv in the mitzvah say shazman grama? L'may tzrichi, why are they needed? Bishlam, because of Rahman hakel, if the Torah would have only wrote hakel, well, because of matzah, and it wouldn't have written matzah, I would have thought that the matzah woman is potter. I would have thought you learn the Gzera Shav of Chamisha from Sukkos, and just like a woman is potter from Sukkah, so too she would be potter from matzah. Kamash Malon, we need the Torah to tell you that a woman is chayiv in matzah. So that's not extra. But hakel is extra. The Torah didn't have to tell you by hakel that women are mechuyev. Because misvara, I would have known that women are mechuyev in hakel. Why? If little children, you're mechuyev to bring them to hakel, they don't know anything. Noshim like kol shekain, surely you have to bring noshim. So I don't need a prophet to tell me that women are mechuyev in hakel. The fact that the Torah spoke it out is completely extra, and therefore hilchah chavalu shnei ksuv abam ke'echad ve'ein melamdim. So right now we're at a stage where yes, you have tefillin, yes, you have re'iyah, two psukim, where the Torah teaches us that it's a mitzvah sasei shezman grama, and the women are potter. Nevertheless, since they're both needed, we have a binyan from there, l'chol HaTorah Kula, the mitzvah sasei shezman grama is potter. And we don't have a binyan from matzah and hakel because their hakel is extra, so therefore it's nechshuv b'mamkel. Yes, if you have a rule, then everything is clear. But if you hold, even though you could still learn the Kula. So we're back to our original question. How do you know to learn from Tefillin Kula that the woman is potter on the mitzvah Sasei Shazman Grama? Maybe you learn from Hakel and from Matzeh that a woman is Mechuyev in the mitzvah Sasei Shazman Grama. Michael Neymar. That's question number one. The two, I have more questions for you. Mitzvah Sasei Shaloyas Mangrama. The Mishnah told us that about a mitzvah Sasei Shaloyas Mangrama, those noshim chayov. Minolan, how do you know women are chayiv? Zok to Gemara, it's the Yalef Mimayra. We learn from the pasuk Ish Imai V'Aviv Tiro that a woman is mechuyev both in Yira for her parents as well as in Kavod for her parents. And we learn from there, Ma Moira Noshim Chayavos, Hakol Mitzvah Sasei, Shaloyas Mangrama Noshim Chayavos. Frank the Gemara, why learn from Moira that a woman is chayiv in mitzvah sasei she'ein azman grama v'neilach mitalmud Torah. Learn from Talmud Torah. It's also mitzvah sasei she'ein azman grama, and their women are potter. So mahekadei should say they're chayiv from Moira to their potter from Torah. So Gemara, I'll tell you why. Because the plukim from where we learn women are potter, those are because Torah a woman's potter. And Peri Yavia, a woman is potter. And therefore, that's what we don't know. Zok to Gemara, but we got a problem. Because Ularebi, let's turn on to Daf Lamed Hayom Aleph, which is today's blot. Ularebi Yochanan ben Broika. According to Rabbi Barak, who learns that a woman is mechuyev in Peri Yeravia, Damar al Shneim, who Aymer Vayavar Choshei Lakim Pruvu. Their Baruch was talking to man and woman at the time. Ma'ikal Meimar. It's no longer Shnei Kshuva Bankacha. You only have Talmud Torah that says mitzvah Sasei Shein Ezman Grama and a woman's potter. Why did you learn from there L'chal Torah Kula that a woman should be potter even on the mitzvah Sasei Shein Ezman Grama? So tomorrow I'll tell you why. We have another mitzvah here. Pidyon ben. Pidyon ben is also a mitzvah and women are potter. So therefore, since we have two psukim that were not necessary, Frank Gemara, according to Rabbi Barak, we have another problem. He now lumps Peri V'Revia into the side that says women are chayiv. So it's a mitzvah that say she'ein azman grama, and women are mechuyev. If that's the case, you wanted to learn the Chalatar Kula from Moira Avaim, that a woman is mechuyev in mitzvah sasei shelo man grama, but we have Peri V'Revi as well. Now Moira has a pair, Peri V'Revi, becomes Shnei Ksuma Bam Kecha, they melamded. So that's not a concept. I need the Torah to tell you Peri V'Revi, because I wouldn't have known it from just knowing that by Moira Avaim there's a chiyuv. Why? Because of Rahman or Moira, well, because of Peri V'Revi, Havamina, I would have thought there's a special reason why a woman should not be mechuyev in Puravu. Because the pasuk says Puravu umilu et haaretz v'chiv shua, and capture the land. V'chiv shua omer Rahmana. Who is the Torah talking about? If the Torah is talking to v'chiv shua, who will the Torah command to conquer the world? Ish the Dakar Lechvoish, a man who is there to go to war, to fight an army, and to conquer. That's what the Torah is talking about. But he will in Peri V'Revi. But Isha the Dakar Lechvoish, a woman is not normally someone who's a warrior who goes to war and conquers land. Therefore, the Torah, when the Torah gave the Tzivu Yapuravu, the Torah was only speaking to someone who's Dakar Lachavich. And therefore, I would have thought that a woman should not be mechuyev in Peri V'Revi. That's why I needed the pasuk to tell you that she's chayiv. Because of Peri V'Revi, but if the Torah only told me that a woman is mechuyev in Peri V'Revi, well, because of Moira, and it wouldn't have told me that a woman is mechuyev in Kibbud Avaim, Rashi says Moira is referring to both Moira and Kibbud. I would have thought, if the Sibik Biyadi Lasa is a man who's completely independent. And he's unfettered. He can go and be mechaber his parents whenever they need. Give a Michael, give a Mishta, in. But each of them typically are a lot. A woman has responsibilities to her family. A woman has responsibilities to her husband. She can't just go. So therefore, she's not mechuyev in the mitzvah all the time. Even they typically are a lot. Since it's not within her, it's not within her rishos to be mechaber the father anytime. We can't give her such a mitzvah. So maybe she should be completely potter from the mitzvah yira and keep it up. Shricha, that's what the Torah had to tell us. So therefore, Moira Ava'im and Perya Verevia are not Shnei Ksuma Bam Ke'echad, and therefore you could learn from them a mitzvah to say She'ein Zman Grama, Noshim are Chayevais. Beautiful. So Gemara, this all works great. Hanich Lemandamar Shnei Ksuma Bam Ke'echad Emalam. Lemandamar Malam Michael Meimar. If you're Shnei Ksuma Bam Ke'echad Malamdin, we're back to square one. Maybe you should learn from Talmud Torah and from Pidyon Aben that just like those are mitzvahs asay, she'ein zman groma, and women are potter, so to all mitzvahs asay, she'ein zman groma, a woman should be potter. Zok Gemara, Amar Rava, we have a teretz. Papunoi, my Talmud from Papuna, Yodi lo l'taimi d'hamlosa. He knows the answer. Umani Ravacha bar Yaakov, and he says the limud both for mitzvahs asay shezman groma that a woman's potter and mitzvahs asay shaloyah bezman groma that a woman's chayiv has nothing to do with the binyanav. So we can put away this whole problem. He has a whole new limud for this halacha, and he says the Torah makes a hekesh between tefillin and kol haTorah. Amar Kra, the pasuk says, "Lo'oisal yodecha u'lezikarin beinenecha u'leman tiyeh Torah Hashem b'ficha." So here the Torah is huksha kol haTorah kula l'tefillin, and therefore we learn mat tefillin is a mitzvah sasei shezman grama, but noshim petura is av kol mitzvah sasei shezman grama noshim petura is. And the Torah went out of its way to make a hecket, to tell us, don't make a mistake. You should know that a mitzvah sasei shezman grama noshim are petura is. From that, we can deduce that a mitzvah sasei the loyas man grama, the will be chayiv. When the mitzvah sasei shezman grama noshim petura is, the mitzvah sasei shaloyas man grama noshim chayav is. Gebaltik. So now we have another limud. Even if you hold that Shnei Ksuma Bam Ke'echad Malamdin, the hekesh trumps everything. You have a hekesh that's telling us clearly that tefillin, which is a mitzvah sasei shezman grama, women are potter, therefore b'chol haTorah kula, such types of mitzvahs, women are potter. Zok Gemara, that worked out really good. Hanich leman da'amar tefillin mitzvah sasei shezman grama. That will work out really nice if you hold tefillin the mitzvah sasei shezman grama. But there's a machlokes tonight about it. There's a Tana who holds tefillin is not a mitzvah sasei shezman grama. It's a mitzvah sasei she'ein zman grama. And leman da'amar tefillin mitzvah sasei shaloyas zman grama. Now it's exactly the opposite. You're going to say mat tefillin, which is the mitzvah sasei shaloyas zman grama. Women are potter, so to b'chol haTorah kula, mitzvah sasei shaloyas zman grama. Women are going to be potter, and adarabah. But a mitzvah sasei shezman grama, women are going to be chayiv. So this whole hakesh will be the opposite of what we're looking for. Michael and Miller, you definitely can't use this hakesh. Dr. Moore, you're right. This hakesh will be counterproductive if you hold that tefillin is a mitzvah sasei she'ein zman grama. But man shamatlei, the Omar tefillin mitzvah sasei shaloyas zman grama. Who is the Tana who holds that tefillin is a mitzvah sasei shaloyas zman grama? You know what his name is? Rab Meir. Guess what? V'savar lo shnei ksuvim abam ke'echad v'chol shnei ksuvim abam ke'echad ein malamdim. Why do we have to come on to this hekesh? Because you were asking, what about if you hold shnei ksuvim abam ke'echad malamdim? Reb Meir is the only one who can't use the hekesh because he holds tefillin is a mitzvah that say shaloyas zman grama. So Reb Meir can use the binyan av. He can use the binyan av because he holds shnei ksuvim abam ke'echad is ein malamdim. Therefore, a mitzvah that says shaloyas zman grama, I know women are chayiv from Moira Avein. How you can ask me a kasha? Learn it from Talmud Torah which a woman is potter on, learn it from Talmud Torah that the woman's potter on, and from Puravu that a woman is potter on, or from Pidyon Ben that a woman's potter on. Snake Suba Bam Gechod, and Melamdin. Gewaltig. Sagt Gemara, but Uli Rabbi Huda, the Amr Snake Suba Bam Gechod Melamdin, and he also Tvil Mitzvah Shlois Man Grama Michael Meimar. He can't use the Hekesh, and he doesn't have the Snake Suba Bam Gechod. So maybe we should learn out of Talmud Torah and out of Pidyon Ben that a mitzvah say Shalei Man Grama, women are going to be potter. So Gemara, we should have a matzah simcha v'hakel shloisha kshuvma bab kechad. You have matzah, simcha, and hakel, which are all mitzvahs say shazman grama. There's three things. They're all mitzvahs say shazman grama, and in all three of them, a woman is chayiv, but it's shloisha kshuvma bab kechad. Shloisha kshuvma bab kechad ein melamdin. So therefore, your whole kasha was that Shnei Ksuba Bam Kechad is Melamdin. True. Here you have Shlosh Ksuba Bam Kechad. So therefore, how do we know mitzvahs say Hazman Grama, a woman is potter? You know it from Tefillin. You have mitzvahs say Hazman Grama that women are chayav on? Yes, we do. But you can't learn from them that they are Shlosh Ksubim Haboyim Kechad. Gewaltig. Now, what about the mitzvahs that say She'ein Hazman Grama? Mitzvahs that say She'ein Hazman Grama, we have Moira Avaim. We have Moira Avaim, and we also, which is a mitzvah that say She'ein Hazman Grama, and women are chayav on. And we also have, what was the other thing we have? We have Moira Avaim, and the Gemara said we had one more thing. No, the Gemara wanted to shtelzu peria peravia. But regardless, that's not Shnei Shabbat B'Echad. Tomorrow Avim will tell us that a mitzvah says she'ein as grand grama, woman of chayavos. We have Talmud Torah. We have Talmud Torah that women are potter from. We have Talmud Torah that women are potter from, as well as what was the other thing we had? As well as Pidyon Ben and Yechanami. But I guess we're going to have to say that once we know that mitzvahs say shehazman grama nashum arpaturas, we'll know from there that mitzvahs say shehazman grama nashum will be chayevos. The Baltic, that takes us to the end of the sugya. And now we're ready to start the next sugya. Zog to Gemara Vayt. A woman is mechuyev in all mitzvahs loisaseh, no matter what. Where do we know that from? Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav, v'chein tana devei Rabbi Shmuel, Amar Kra, ish or isha, ki yasu mikol chatas ha'odam. They're just talking about certain aveiros that you have to bring karbanos for. The Torah specifically says if a woman does this aveira, she has to bring a carbon. She's covered by the lavin. Hishva kosav isha leish l'chol oinchin shebetor. All oinchin in the Torah, such as malchus, which is for a lav, a woman is mechuyev, and that is in the Torah. Now the Gemara goes off on a tangent, and once the Gemara talking about things that women apply to women, just as it applies to men, the Gemara shares with us two other things as well. The very below Tana Amar Kra Asher Tosam Lefneim. It says Elah Mishpatim Asher Tosam Lefneim that Dinei Mammon is all the halachot of Dinei Mammon is of Choshen Mishpat apply equally to women as it apply to men. So if you steal from a woman, you got to pay kefil. If she steals from you, you got to pay kefil. If you're mazik, you got to pay. If she's mazik, you got to pay. His brakos of each other l'chaldinim shebetar. That's the second interesting halacha. The third is the Becheski Yatana Amar Kra. The Hamis Ish or Isha. This is a pasuk talking about if an ox gores a man or a woman, the owner of the ox has to pay kofer. The Torah tells us not only if the ox kills a man does he have to pay kofer, but if it kills a woman, is because of Isha Lish L'chal Misa Shebetar. The same problem that you deal with if you kill the man, you're going to deal with if you kill a woman. or tricha. I needed the Torah to tell me in each of these cases a woman is equal to a man. I wouldn't know one from the other. If we only knew that a woman is mechuyev in malchus and an oinchem and kapara, that mishum kapara chas v'chman. The Torah wants a woman to have a way to get a kapara for her bears. So the Torah, of course, is going to be mechayev to bring karbanos to get malchus, so she should be able to have a kapara for more bears. Avol dinin, but when it comes to dinin mamanis, maybe she doesn't need to be included in choshen mishpat because it's not relevant to her. Ema ish the bar matan in a man does business, but a ish alone she doesn't do business. So the Torah has to tell you no, a woman also is included in all the halachas of choshen mishpat. And if we only knew that a woman is mechuyev in all halachas of choshen mishpat, that's mishum de chayuti. That's because otherwise she wouldn't be able to survive. It would be the Wild West. She would be able to steal from anybody with no consequence, and anybody would be able to steal from her with no consequence. You wouldn't be able to live in society normal. But talk about a payment made due to an ox that killed her. Ema, maybe we should say, turning on the daf lamed hamid base. Maybe we should say, ish debar mitzvah in. A man who's mechuyev in all mitzvahs, he's a man who, if he's killed, there's a life lost, a life of someone who does all mitzvahs, for him you pay kofer. But isha life. So that's why the Torah says, even on the isha, even though she's not mechuyev in all mitzvahs, if your ox kills her, you got to pay. And if we only knew that you pay kofer for a woman, there it's a woman's mom got killed. That's a serious thing. That's why you pay. But maybe for money or maybe for anjim, that's where the Torah in all three places made it clear to us that the halachas apply equally to a woman as they apply to a man. Now we have another beautiful Gemara. Our Mishnah says there's two exceptions to the rule that a woman is mechuyev in every lav. Two exceptions are cutting off your payas and destroying your beard. Now, before we learn the sugya, we have to look at all the moving parts that the sugya is going to be discussing. And in fact, there's two places in the Torah where the Torah prohibits someone from cutting their beard. One is referring to a Yisrael, not a Kohen, a regular Yisrael. And it says in the pasuk, "Lo yisakivu pas roishem, v'lo yisatzis pa'as ziknu." The same pasuk that tells us that a person cannot shave, he cannot destroy his beard. That same pasuk says a person should not cut his payas. That's talking about a Yisrael. But the Torah also talks about cutting a beard related to a kohen. And the pasuk in the beginning of Emor says, "Vayomer Hashem el Moshe, Emor el Kayhanim b'nei Aharon, v'amarta aleim l'nefesh lo yitam haba." And that's the pasuk that's talking about the issue for a kohen to be mitama. And we make a drasha b'nei Aharon v'lo b'nei Aharon. This prohibition that the Torah gives for a kohen to become tamei does not apply to a female. But that's not the last pasuk in the parsha. That's the first pasuk in the parsha. And if you read the next couple of psukim, the Torah lists many more restrictions that apply to a kohen, including the next pasuk, which says, "Lo yikchu karcha b'roisham." They're not allowed to tear their hair out, and scratch their hair when there's a mace. And the Gemara will discuss that in detail later today as well as tomorrow. But what we're going to focus on is ufa'as zekanam lo yigalech. They're not allowed to cut their beards. That's an issue for a kohen. Now, the pasuk earlier that said b'nei Aharon v'lo b'nei Aharon, that excluded women from the prohibition of tumah, does that carry through? Is that qualifying all the halachas in this parsha? Meaning cutting a beard. Is that also b'nei Aharon v'lo b'nei Aharon? Or maybe b'nei Aharon v'lo b'nei Aharon is only for the halach in the pasuk of tumah. But all the other halachas, such as karcha, such as paskanam, maybe that applies equally to women as it applies to men. That is going to be our discussion. We understand very clearly why it is that a woman can be matamat to mesa. The issue to cut off payas and a beard, we know. How do we know that it doesn't apply to a woman? And now the pasuk is, now the Gemara is changing tracks, It's no longer focusing on the pasuk in Emor about Kohanim. It's now focusing on the pasuk that's speaking to everybody in Klal Yisrael, where it says in the pasuk, these two halachas are together to teach us that they travel together. Any person who is prohibited from being mashkas his beard, he's prohibited from cutting his pants. But the hani nashi, women, since they don't have a prohibition to cut their beard, therefore they're exempt from the prohibition of cutting their pants. But the question is, how do you know they're exempt from the prohibition of cutting their beards? When we know long, so Gemara, first of all, you can argue you don't need a pasuk. It's a svara. The whole law is luzakin. They don't have a beard. So how can they have a prohibition to cut a beard if they don't have one? Or maybe you can be medayik from the pasuk itself that a woman is allowed to cut her beard. Let's look at the pasuk. Pasuk says, pas roishchem. The Torah is talking to two people, roishchem. Which two people? A man and a woman. But when the Torah talks about a beard, it says, now suddenly the Torah is only speaking to one of the two people that the Torah was just speaking to a minute ago. Since the Torah clearly changed its speech, and now is only referring to a Yochid when the Torah says, so we learn we're talking to you, we're not speaking to the woman. So therefore we know that a woman is allowed to shave her beard. Once we know that a woman is allowed to shave her beard, so then we say the earlier part of the pasuk of L'Shakivu Bas Roishchem does not apply to a woman either. Beautiful. Are you telling me that a woman is allowed to cut her beard? I have a brisa which seems to say that a woman is not allowed to cut her beard. Because what does the brisa say? Batani is a beard of a woman, hasris, and the beard of a sris, shehelu sar, that grew hair, it has the full status of a beard. Well, what halachas do you know about a beard? The only halacha I know is that you know how to cut it. My lav lashchas. So the bride must be telling us that a woman's beard is just like a man's beard, and it's also to be mashkas. So how does this jive with what we just said? That in fact a woman is allowed to cut her beard. Amar Abaye, Dr. Abaye, you cannot say like you think that this brisa is prohibiting a woman to cut her beard. Impossible. You cannot possibly say it. Now, before we go weiter, we would both agree that we just learned the pasuk that's speaking about all of Yidden. From that pasuk alone, we had two svaras why a woman's allowed to cut her beard. Either the Torah is not referring to her because she doesn't have a beard, or because it says talking to a man, not to a woman. But Abaye actually found a third source that a woman is allowed to cut her beard. And he went back to the pasuk talking about kahuna. So Dr. Abaye, you cannot possibly say that it's also for a woman to cut her beard. Why? The aleph pa'as mibnei aharon. We learned pa'as. It says l'sashkas pa'as siknecha by Yisrael. It also says es pa'as siknecha lo yigalechu, referring to the Kohen. So the word pa'as by the parish of Kohen and the word pa'as by the parish of Yisrael brings these two parishes together to tell us they share the same halachas. Mal halach, just like by a Kohen, nochim peturais, nochim are potter from the prohibition to cut your beard. How do you know they're potter? Where do you see that? It must be because they learn b'nei aharon v'lo b'nei aharon is not just qualifying the immediate halach in that pasuk of Tumah, but it's qualifying the entire parsha there. All the halachas in the parsha only apply to b'nei aharon v'lo b'nei aharon. And just like we know that by kahuna, Afkan, so too by Yisrael, noshim peturais, they're potter from the halacha of cutting their beard. Zok the Gemara, the sphere law, the chikaz of b'nei aharon akul yoniksid. So now you're telling me that when it says b'nei aharon to exclude women, it's excluding women from the entire parsha of kahuna over there. Well, if that's the case, why do I need a gzeir shava to pass that halacha on from a woman who's a kohen to a regular Yisrael, that just like by the woman who's a Kohen, she is allowed to cut her beard, so to a Yisrael is to cut her beard. I don't need Xer Shava for that. My Svara will tell me that. Nishti Kramine, forget the Xer Shava. V'teisi b'kal v'chaymer. You have a push to kal v'chaymer. Well, now I would say as follows: Uma kohanim, ma kohanim, kiriba b'hem akosiv mitzvos yiserois. Kohanim are full of restrictions, yet the restriction doesn't apply to women. You say b'nei aharon v'lo b'nei sahar. Yisrael, which is so much more lenient than kohanim, like again, surely the prohibition of cutting the beard shouldn't apply to a woman. Dr. Gemara, you're right. You have a very good kal v'chomer, but the problem is ilav gzeir shava havamina hifsekain. If it wasn't for the gzeir shava, I would have said that maybe by kohanim the woman is prohibited from cutting her beard, and maybe when it says b'nei aharon v'lo b'nei sahar, it's referring exclusively to halacha of tumah. But all the other halachas in the parsha maybe do not apply. Maybe do apply to women. So therefore, now that I have Xer Shava, the Xer Shava has got to be teaching me something. What else could the Xer Shava be teaching me? The only thing left to say is that it teaches me that women are potter. So therefore, you're forced to say that by the Parsha of Kahuna, women are potter. You're forced to say that B'nei Aharon v'lo b'nei sahar is qualifying the entire Parsha. Zok Gemara, I don't understand. Hashtanami name hifseki. And now that you have Xer Shava, why? How does that prove? How does that prove that women are allowed to cut their beard? The teretz is because otherwise, what else is the Xer Shava teaching? Zok Gemara, it's not a problem. The Xer Shava mi boil lechem. The Xer Shava could be teaching me another very important lesson, and I don't have to say b'dafka that it teaches me that women are potter. Maybe in fact women are chayav. What else could the drasha be telling us? Very simple. What type of cutting your beard is prohibited? We use shavers, we cut our beard, it's not prohibited. It's only a razor blade that is prohibited. How do we know that? Here it is because we have a hekesh from the two psukim, peah, not hekesh, but Xer Shava, peah, from the two parashas in the Torah that tell you not to cut your beard. By the Kohen it says lo yigalechu. By the Yisrael it says lo yisashkes. So there's two different things here that have to be met for it to be altered. It has to be a giluach, it has to be a hashchasa. Zok Gemara, it says lo yigalechu by the Kohen yochel gilchay b'misparayim yechayiv. Cutting with the scissors is called giluach, so maybe that's also chayiv. Talmud loymer lo yisashkes. Nah, it says in the parsha of Yisrael lo yisashkes pasiknoi, meaning completely destroyed. When you're cutting with the scissors, there's still some stubble left. You might have think of use a tweezer to pull out all their hair. So that's pure ashchasa, there's no hair left. You might think that would be chayiv because it says loisashkis. But according to loigalechu. So the method of which you have to do the ashchasa has to be a method that would be considered giluach. What method could be considered giluach that also is totally mashkis the hair? Only one. Zetar. That's got to be a razor blade. So that's what the Xer Shava tells us. The Xer Shava allows us to define precisely what the parameters of the Isser Giluach Hazakin is, and that the Shchasa was a tar. Zok to Gemara, oy bazoi, you don't see anywhere from there that women are tourists. Maybe women are takachayim in this Isser. Zok to Gemara, no. Because in Kain Nichtay Kra Es Shabir Ziknecha, in the Parsha of the Yisrael, where it says, why does it have to say Pa'as again? It could have said, which is the part of your hair and the pas of your beard. Why did it have to say Pa'as again? My Pa'as, why did the pasuk have to repeat Pa'as? Mami Notati is teaching us as well that a woman is potter from this Isser of cutting her beard. So now that we've heard from Abaye that in fact a woman is allowed to cut her beard, so the Gabi wanted the bride to tell us that the beard of a woman has the regular status of a regular beard. Legabi, what halacha is the beard of a woman considered a beard? We know that if you have a neg on your skin, a white hair is a siman tumah. But if you have a neg on the beard, a gold hair is a siman tumah. To tell us that if a woman had a beard, then a gold hair would make her tongue. Frank Gemara, I don't need a Tana to tell me this in the Brisa. It's black and white in the Pasuk. It's black and white. I don't need a Tana to tell me the Kiddush. No, sure she can get a nega, but maybe the Seder Tahir will be different. Frank Gemara, that's not logical. Tahir is Negoim Naim Chito. Even the Bastomai, that's Tahiri. If she's included in the parasha of a nega for a beard, so then the whole parasha can apply to her, which is how she's been tired from it as well. So Gemara, you know what? Scratch that. The Kiddush is that it's considered a nega. How it says the fair Isha Isha, I could have learned the pasuk different. When the Torah says Isha Isha, it's not applying everything to both. Isha Isha by nega b'rosh aybezaken. So the nega b'rosh might be referring to the Isha. But the aybezaken, Dr. Gemara, is hadar also na'ish. Maybe that's only referring to a man. And maybe, in fact, a woman's nega on her beard is not considered a nega on the beard. Kamash Malon, that's why the Brisa needs to tell us that the beard of a woman is like any other beard of a man, and therefore all the halachas of Negoim apply. Period. That takes us to the end of this sugya. And now we're going to have a complete repeat of the exact sugya, but applying to a different halach. If you noticed, when we looked at the psukim that discusses the prohibition of a kohen cutting his beard, what did the pasuk say? So we were focusing on the does that apply to a woman? Does it not apply to a woman? Now we're going to go a step back to the first halach in the pasuk. Does this insert to tear your hair out for a mace? Does that also apply to a woman or not? Zokt Isi ben Yehuda. Sorry, Zokt Isi quoted a Brisa. Tani af bal yikruchu noshim p'turos. Women are parted from this halach. By time it is Isi to Darashach. And once again, the pasuk discusses the Isser Karcha, Legabe a Kohen, which we just quoted, but it also discusses it Legabe a Yisrael, where the pasuk says, "Banim atem l'Hashem alekechem," lois is goydidu, which means cut your hand, lois asimu karcha b'neinechem l'metz, and you're not allowed to make a karcha between your eyes l'metz. So this pasuk is actually giving us more details on the Isser. But the Kohen just says lois asimu karcha, the sikhu karcha. Here it tells us it's dalka b'neinechem, not anywhere on the Rosh. It also says l'metz. The Isser is only if you're mourning a mace to do it that way. So Zok the Gemara, you know how Isi knows Noshim Turais? From the Parsha mentioned by a Yisrael. What does it say in the Pasuk? It says in the Pasuk as follows. It says, the Dorashach, Bonim Atem Lashem Alekechem. The Torah precedes the halacha by calling us Hashem's sons. Lois Esgoidedu, Lois Asimu Korcha Ben Yinechem Umeis, Kiam Kodosh Lashem Alekechem. It says Bonim Atem. So we're talking to Bonim, V'loi Bonim. We're saying this exclusion of women is only referring to the prohibition of karcha, of tearing your hair out and making your head bleed for a mace. But you know what? There's another prohibition in that pasuk. That's gedida, which means cutting your skin. So how do you know to apply bonim to karakas? Atem lekarakas or ena el gedida. Maybe the prohibition of gedida doesn't apply to women. It says in the pasuk, you know why you're not allowed to do this? Because you're a holy nation. Well, that includes women. Women are also a holy nation. All right, so we're going to apply that to Gedida. So where am I applying the exclusion of Banim? We have one pasuk that seems to exclude women, Banim, and one pasuk that seems to include women, which is we have Gedida, we have Karka. How do you know to apply the exclusion of women to Karka and the inclusion of women to Gedida? Maybe it's Pokfakir. The more Marbani is a Gedida, Gedida is a much bigger isser because it applies sai on your head where you have hair growing, sai on the rest of your body where there's only skin. Mashenkin karcha, moten is a karcha she'ena ela b'mokim sa. The whole isser only applies in the place where you grow hair. Therefore, since the isser is more limited, we'll say it's limited to men, not to women. But the isser that's anywhere on the body, that applies equally to men and to women. Frek Gemara, maybe both of them should be mutter to a woman. We have a pasuk of Kiam Kodesh to include women. Maybe that's referring to a third isser. The chikada of Kiam Kodesh Atal Hashem Elakacha is besrido d'chsev. Srid is also cutting your skin, but it's cutting your skin with a knife, with a keli. Dr. Gemara, you know why Rabashi doesn't say that? Because Isi doesn't say it. Kasavar Isi Shrita Ugadida Achasi. Isi holds that they're both considered the same. It doesn't make a difference if you're cutting yourself with your nail or with a knife. They're both referred to with the word Gedida, and they're both referred to with the word Shrita. So therefore, I don't have three things to play with: Shrita, Gedida, and Karcha. I only have two things to play with: Karcha and Gedida and Shrita, which are one and the same. Therefore, the logic is that Karcha, which only applies Makom Sar, we'll say a woman is exempt from that. Gedida and Shrita, which apply Bein Makom Sar, Bein Shalei Makom Sar, that the Torah says applies equally to women. Ki Am Kadosh Atal Hashem Elokei. Baruch Hashem, we were Zoicha to finish 2 block Gemara. We're now ready to go with Daf Lamed Vav, which Be'ez Hashem we're going to learn tomorrow morning at 5:30 a.m. and then we'll learn it again at 9 o'clock a.m. I want to wish everybody a Gemar Chesiv Toiva, a good Kebench Tiyar, and we should have a year of Bracha, of Hatzlacha, Beruch Nishu the Gashmis. All the very best and a good Tavach.